If you tried to tune in Sunday and weren't able to see our service online, we apologize for our technical difficulties that we were having. We were able to recover part of my talk, and so you'll see that following this short introduction. Wanted to let you know that this was week 1 of a 7-week series where we're following the book, The Magic of Surrender by Coop Blackson. Coop Blackson received a Walden Award from Unity for being a next generation leader. And this book is about surrendering. It's about giving up control. It's about allowing yourself to be vulnerable, to be broken open so that you can surrender to what life is longing to come forth through you and as you. It's so easy for us to want to just hang on and decide how life should be instead of how life is longing to seek through us, to seek expression through us. So sit back and enjoy parts of the talk from Sunday, and I hope we'll see you in future services on Facebook or YouTube or our website, columbineunity.org. Thanks for joining us. None of us has control in this life. Our demand that life go the way we want is what causes so much suffering. Know that the degree to which you surrender determines the degree to which you are alive. Surrender is always worth it. It is the way, it is the key, it is the real secret. There's so much freedom in letting go of control. We feel lighter when we are able to release. And not just in our consciousness, and not just with our lives, but with our stuff too. When we were in Prosperity Plus this summer, we had a clearing process that we were to do daily. Clear out the stuff, clear out the clutter. I shared a few weeks ago that Kevin and I are moving to Denver, and we close tomorrow on our house. And I am really excited, but I'm looking at our furniture, and our furniture doesn't fit because it's smaller. Our new place is smaller than our current place. So we're selling some stuff, and I keep looking at my coffee table. I'm like, I don't want to get rid of my coffee table. It seems silly, but that coffee table represents a bit of freedom to me, something I purchased when I was newly single years ago. The need to release things. My mother-in-law is also moving into a smaller place. She's moving into an apartment. And these last few days, Kevin, my husband, has been in Michigan helping her. And he witnessed her going through some bins of plaques and awards. My mother-in-law is an amazing woman. And she won a lot of awards, speaking and all the good that she had done and communications with women's groups and lots of different things at the college level. And she was sorting through her awards and releasing them. And how sad that was to Kevin when he was telling me, and his mom when she was telling me over the phone, to let go of something like that. But I said to her, you still have the memory. You still have the accomplishment. You still have the impact that you made on the people whose lives you touched, and that will never be taken away from you. Yes, the evidence of it, the plaques, the awards, went to the dumpster, sadly. But how many of us need to have that physical evidence to have a knowing of a difference we made? Surrender. She had to surrender those things. It's not easy. Just like we have to surrender the body when it's our time for the soul to move on. Annie Worth, some of you know, many of you know Annie Worth. She used to work here as our director of community care, and I was talking to her the other day, and she was telling me how how it turned out that she was living in St. John this last year, an island, U.S. Virgin Island. They had to surrender the lives they knew here. She said she didn't know she was going and staying for a year. She left clothes in the dryer. But you have to surrender to something and then let life unfold. They went to St. John. Their kids were struggling in school because of the pandemic, because it was virtual learning. And this last year, her grandchildren are thriving. They're so joyful and happy. And what an experience to live on an island, 4-mile diameter island, rather than in Louisville, Colorado. The experience they're gaining, the way life is unfolding for them is amazing. We need to surrender. How many of us during the pandemic felt we didn't want to let go of our lives the way we knew them? We still don't. We're still wearing masks. We're ready to let it all go, right? But the pandemic's not done with us. We need to surrender and find the good in it. There's lots of good. There are always blessings in every situation if we only are willing to look. If we're only willing to take a wider view and look for the blessing. Our egos get in the way. We get ourselves in the way. We need to get ourselves out of the way by letting go of the stories about ourselves, the labels, the identities. You know, a lot of those labels are like cans of food. They have an expiration date, and they're way past due. It's time to let go of them. And we have this another power within us, this power of release, the power of elimination, the power to let go. Let go of those things that are no longer serving you. Let go of those attachments where we're just hanging on so tightly to the way we think life needs to be for us to be happy. We have no idea how much more happiness there is on the other side of that attachment. Try it. Just step out. Let go of that control. How do we do this? It's not easy. We have to make a conscious decision to release, to drop it. Like you would think about wearing a heavy backpack and you just can't wait to put it down because it's so heavy and your back is hurting. Make a conscious decision to let it go. Hanging on to control, hanging on to our attachments, to our life being a certain way is a heavy burden. It's a heavy burden that we can be so much more free when we release it. But we're often fearful. What if we let go of something that we really need? What if my coffee table is really important to me and I let go of it and I regret it? Well, Coote says this about that. Trust that what is truly meant for you cannot be taken away, and what is not meant for you cannot remain. If you try to hold on, you just block your own blessings. Just block your own blessings. Because we don't know what those blessings are beyond the attachment, beyond the need to control our lives. But there's definitely a freedom, like holding a hot coal and dropping it. There's a freedom. And the blessings can be maybe how we share, the stories that we can tell because we let go of how our life expanded, how our life became more joyful, more peaceful, more well. You know, every fish you catch and release returns to his school with an alien abduction story. Those stories are important. I love that. But every time you worry, every time you have anxiety, Coote says, just stop. Pause. Breathe. You can't make a mistake. Sure, we can be hurtful and we can harm and we can have regrets, but we can't make a mistake, because what if in those actions there was a lesson to be gained, a blessing to be had? It may just be a longer ride to get to the same place. You can't make a mistake. It doesn't mean we don't hold ourselves or others accountable. It doesn't mean that we allow ourselves to be a doormat. We do hold ourselves accountable. But he says this about it. Surrender is to take responsibility and ownership to face what you created without judgment. We all create things that we wish we hadn't created. Embrace the lesson and grow from it without being a victim. Without being a victim. It's so easy to get into that victim mentality. There's a great story in the book of John, the Gospel according to John chapter 5, of a lame man who is at the pool in Bethesda for 38 years. He can't walk. And at this pool in Bethesda, when the water bubbles up, it was believed that the first one to get to that activity in the water where it's bubbling up would be healed. And in this pool, there are 5 porches, and it's within the city of Jerusalem. I've been watching The Chosen. I mentioned this a few weeks ago. This section in the movie, in the series, is incredibly moving. Because you see this man, they create a whole story. They take some liberties with the Bible, with the Gospels. But you see this man, the story of this man who falls out of a tree when he is a young boy and is crippled the rest of his life. And for 38 years, he's laying on a mat at this pool. And every time the water bubbles up, he's trying to crawl on his elbows to get to the water, and people are jumping over him, and nobody's helping him. For 38 years, every time the water bubbles up, you see him, and you see his anguish at being lame, at not being able to move, to walk, and wanting to be healed. And then after 38 years, Jesus walks in to the pool at Bethesda. And he goes right up to this man who, in the gospel, we don't know his name is Jesse, but in The Chosen, his name is Jesse, and says, "Would you like to be well? Would you like to be healed?" And you see that these actors are so incredible. This is amazing Jesus, by the way. You see these actors, you see his struggle, because what does he have to give up? He has to surrender his victimhood. He has to surrender his way of being. He said, "Nobody will help me. Nobody will help me get to the water so I can be healed." And Jesus just says, I didn't ask for you for that. Would you like to be healed? Will you be healed? And you see his eyes, and he's just struggling with this. How do I stop being a victim? How do I surrender the life I know now and allow myself the possibility of a life so much greater? And he finally says, yes. And what does Jesus say to him? Probably this is a very well-known scripture. He says, "Then pick up your mat and walk." And he stands up, he picks up his mat, and he walks. Now, metaphysically, I love looking at the metaphysics of the story. There's there's a pool with 5 porches, the 5 senses. And he's looking for healing from these 5 senses, from a worldly consciousness. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But if we want a true healing in consciousness, we need to surrender our beliefs, our attachments, have that faith. And so Jesus walks in. If it wasn't okay to get healed, to get cured by a worldly way, through the medical field or whatever, Jesus wouldn't have walked in there. Metaphysically, they're saying, let your body, let the world, and your spiritual awareness work together. Work together. Now, Jesus goes and heals them on a Sabbath, which metaphysically says it's when we're in the stillness. It's when we're in the quiet. It's when we're resting, when we allow ourselves to surrender, to breathe, that we can be healed. That spiritual awareness will pop up. We need to have faith. We need to have faith that it's possible. Surrender that victimhood. Now, he immediately stood up. Don't get hung up on the time. If it takes you 6 weeks or 6 months or 6 years, that's conscious time is a thing in consciousness anyway. But it's an incredible story of surrendering a life that he knew for 38 years to a life way beyond his dreams, that he could walk again, that he could dance. He's dancing out of the pool area, that he could dance. The same is true for us. There's so much more life beyond the hanging on to the tightly control of our attachments and our stories. And we need to first let go in consciousness. Let go of those labels and those stories and those beliefs and surrender. Are you willing to surrender? It takes a willingness. Are you ready to trust life? That all will be well. This week, I invite you to look at what stories you're hanging on to, what beliefs you're hanging on to that are holding you back from being all you can be. Where can you surrender? Where can you just start? As Coot says, I want to leave you with the last words in this chapter, chapter 1. He says, dare I say it, we can become superhuman, and we elevate our impact. So stop resisting your calling. Stop refusing your greatness. Stop dimming your light. Stop hiding your gifts. Stop fighting your purpose. Stop arguing for your smallness. Stop crawling in the mud. It's time to say yes to the real reason you were born. This is when you access the magic. And then life will give you the wings to fly. Get out of your own way. Just start and live life more freely. Namaste. Peace be with you.